After disappointing playoff losses, the Bills are on the search for a new head coach, and the Texans could be looking for a new starting quarterback. We discuss this and more in today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Fantasy Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcasting network. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, we had a lot of things come out of this weekend. We had 4 teams lose, getting sent home with the Bills, the Texans, the Bears, and who else am I missing here?
Yeah, the 49ers, yeah.
The 49ers.
I thought you were doing it on purpose.
I wasn't, which is so funny. I think I blacked out from that game.
Okay,
I'm trying to
I'm trying to reset memory. So at least the misery was over quickly on that one. So
I will say I stopped watching in the second half at some point because I was so angry. So but we're going to talk about these teams today, the Bills, the 49ers, and the Texans, and the fallout. With the Bears, it's like, yeah, they lost, but they're on the up and up, right? First year with Ben Johnson, the offense looks great. I don't think any Bears fans are too upset about their season. But with the Bills, they fire Sean McDermott after their loss, which can be surprising, right? They make the playoffs every year. They're a really good team. They always win at least one playoff game, but they can't get to the Super Bowl. So what was your reaction there with the Bills firing McDermott?
Well, I don't know if Sean McDermott was to blame for this, but I think there was so much pressure for them to make a run without the Chiefs or the Ravens in the playoffs that they didn't come through, and the way they didn't come through, right? I mean, a game that they could have won in Denver, but I mean, Sean McDermott's not out there fumbling the ball or throwing interceptions, right? And everyone looks at the last play, was it an interception or not? Well, they lost the game earlier when they had the James Cook fumble and what Josh Allen did fumbling. So they did not play well in that game. They didn't seem prepared, and ultimately that seemed to doom Sean McDermott here. And again, just not being able to get over that hump in the playoffs, even as a wild card playoff team, and maybe the fact that they were a wild card alone, right? That they dropped from division champions to having to win on the road. That also probably didn't sit well. They wanted to see how the season ended up. It did not work out all that well, losing in the divisional playoffs. Now, the question everyone is trying to figure out is, are they going to keep Joe Brady? Are they going to promote Joe Brady? The GM, Brandon Beane, sticks around, which is interesting because McDermott kind of brought in Beane. So now he's in charge of hiring McDermott's successor, I should say. And relative to that, when we look at that move, it's interesting to keep Beane. There's been a lot of heat on him for not putting this roster together to win, but really they were on the brink of winning. They have a lot of things going for them. And look, they've been a little bit tied with the money that they're paying Josh Allen and now James Cook, that they can't just go nuts on defense like they used to and have a lot of those players and guys for hire. And their pass rush was disappointing in the end. So we're talking about fantasy, however, and we are really curious. Again, Josh Allen, the two things we want to find out, is he going to stick with Joe Brady? Are they going to go back to Brian Daboll, who looks like he might be going to the Eagles as their offense coordinator? Would they bring Daboll back in Buffalo, another guy that Allen trusts before Brady? I don't think they'll go to Ken Dorsey. But when we look at this situation, I mean, it's tough, right? You want to keep things intact for Josh Allen. You don't want them to mess things up. I think the biggest question is, do they improve things for Josh Allen being the next coach? And maybe we need an offensive guy in there to really get the most out of Allen in terms of the consistency and winning through the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like Allen did make some mistakes in this game for sure, but he did enough also for his team to win. It's so hard because he really is. I mean, it's him and James Cook, right? They're a two-man show, it feels like, in that offense, plus a great offensive line. I don't want to forget the big boys there, but They need a true wide receiver one, right? Like they've done this game now for a few years without Stephon Diggs, with trying, and Josh Allen is getting it done. He's still putting up great numbers. He won MVP last year. That's great and all without having a true wide receiver one. But when you get into these playoff games and you don't have a go-to guy, it can really, really hurt you. Kincaid didn't step up enough for what we needed. Khalil Shakir is a good slot guy, but he cannot be your main wide receiver. And they tried it with Keon Coleman. It's just not working. So they need to bring in a true wide receiver one. They need to figure out their defense when they get to the playoffs too, because they still allowed 33 points in this game. They allow 30 points again and again and again every time the Bills lose in the playoffs. So it's not like the offense isn't putting up points. Now, on the fantasy focus here, I said they need a wide receiver one, but with Dalton Kincaid, what does his future look like to you for fantasy? He was a tight end 10 in points per game this season, had a couple good playoff games here with a touchdown in both of those games, had some good games earlier the year, kind of dropped off a bit towards the end of the year. It was too inconsistent, but do you think he could be better in his, what will it be now, third or fourth season? It'll be his third?
Yeah, he's been around as a first-round pick. You have Kyle Pitts. We waited, and it happened for him this year. Now, Dalton Kincaid has teased that this could happen. I think the problem is he hasn't always been able to stay healthy and in the flow of the offense, and they haven't necessarily made him a go-to guy. It's kind of like Josh Allen spreads the ball over the field, and a boom, Dalton Kincaid is there making a big play in the fourth quarter, which he did in both of these playoff games, and you're wondering why didn't they throw him earlier in the game? Why isn't he a big part of what they do? And I think part of it is just the nature of spreading the ball around in this Bills passing game. Now, you'd like them to streamline it a little bit. And it's hard because we've seen various people make plays at certain times. Khalil Shakir, if the slot matchup is good, they'll go to him. If there is a big play opportunity to be had downfield, they look at Brandon Cooks or Keon Coleman. But they're just slapping these guys together. And part of it, again, you can't afford too much at receiver, but they also could have had Xavier Worthy to stretch the field. Now, he hasn't worked out all the well for the Chiefs because he's been hurt, but he might have fit better with the Bills because of his speed and be able to get open for Josh Allen more so than Keon Coleman. So they made some questionable decisions. I thought at least they're really good at the 12 personnel when they need it here with Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox on the field. I think sometimes that's their best look, and they're most effective doing that when they help their offensive line create a kind of a run, pass, versatile look with what they're doing. So there are a lot of ways they could go with it. We'll see. Do they go weird and go like Todd Monken or somebody like that has used the two tight ends and produced another MVP in Baltimore, and maybe does Josh Allen fit a little bit better in that downfield passing game than Jackson, who can be a little sporadic with his arm, right? So these are all things that they have to weigh. The real question is, can it get better for Josh Allen through these weapons? I'm not sure if it can get better for Josh Allen. Like, he's already played at a high level and taken advantage of this, but I think it can get better for his weapons if they kind of compress it and bring it back to some core guys. I think in some ways they spread the ball around a little too much in Buffalo to some average players.
Yeah, and it will be Kincaid's fourth season now, and it's been pretty consistent for him in terms of yards, 571, 448, 673. So he would have to have a big breakout, and really he's had the opportunity to get so many targets over this span because he could have been the main guy. So it's hard to see him ever being that true dominant fantasy tight end moving forward. But with James Cook, though, on the other hand, 2 straight great seasons in fantasy, running back 6 this year, running back 10 last year. Touchdowns are there, 14 touchdowns, 18 touchdowns. But was really exciting this season, he had 309 carries, right? So they paid him the big bucks this offseason. He's under contract for a while. He doesn't turn 27 until the season already starts next year. And I think with them doing that, they're like, okay, we're going to feed you the ball. And they did. And he was super efficient. So James Cook is going to continue to be a solid pick, I think, in that, the early second round, if that's where he's sitting this upcoming year, and maybe even at the bottom of the first round.
Yeah, I wonder if he creeps up, how far he creeps up in the conversation with Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, all that. I mean, they were big-time producers for your teams this year, but then we also know the attrition can creep in there. Even Jonathan Taylor looked like a great pick, but the attrition came back to bring him back to the pack. But I think you're right. James Cook is still the focal point of what they want to do. He's young. He's got a lot of versatility. He's explosive. He scores a lot of touchdowns. So, again, we'll see. Second round in fantasy, we'll see. Might be closer to the first overall pick. I don't know if you could expend that, but yeah, it's hard, right? Knowing that you have Josh Allen and his running and taken away from that a little bit, but still the numbers were there for Cook. I think the one thing you'd like to see, let's get him back as a receiver, and then we'll get back to that complete back that we can get out of him, like we see with Robinson McCaffrey. But you're right, he's going to be an elite, top tier running back one here in 2026.
So the Bills lose yet again in the playoffs, so don't make the Super Bowl. The Texans still have never made a conference championship, and they might be looking for a new quarterback. We will discuss that right after a quick break. Hey guys, the draft pick positions are set, and so many teams are looking for their franchise quarterback. If you ever wish to become a pro quarterback, getting drafted first overall by your favorite team, I have the perfect mobile game for you. It's called Ultimate Quarterback Football Legend. In this game, you step into the cleats of a number one draft pick quarterback, and it's your job to lead the team to greatness, to help turn a failing franchise into a dynasty. This is the number one quarterback career mode game on the mobile app stores, and it introduces the most realistic environment with full career control. You'll sign contracts, train and upgrade yourself, build chemistry, and evolve your teammates. You give input to your GM on roster moves, play the actual games in 2D, and rise through the ranks to become a pro football legend. You get to deal with the ups and downs of a quarterback's career, from rookie nerves to playoff drama, and every choice snaps and shapes your journey. Ultimate Quarterback is totally free to play, has no ads, and works 100% offline. Perfect when you want to sneak in a game or two on the go. Just head over to ultimate-quarterback.com. That's ultimate-quarterback.com, or search for Ultimate Quarterback in your app store. And we got something special just for you guys. Use promo code LOCKEDON, all caps, in the game stores to get a free boost at the start of your career. Ultimate Quarterback Football Legend, Quarterback One. It's your legacy. This episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to stay locked into every moment than with Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where it always feels good to be right. With football season coming down to its final stretch, now is the perfect time to close it out strong. Prize Picks makes watching the games even more exciting by letting you build simple lineups around player projections. No drafting, no waiting, just football action all the way through the playoffs. It's incredibly easy to get started. You just pick two or more players and choose more or less on their projections. It makes watching games way more engaging and fun, especially during the playoffs and the big game. And it's a great way to keep playing fantasy football even after season-long leagues are finished. Just download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, let's hop in to these Texans. Before we do that, I just want to remind you, if you're already here with this every day, it's really time to take it up a level. Go ad free, get to join us on the members only Discord access, and it just makes the whole experience more enjoyable for you guys. So it's all for just $5 a month. You can get it, or you can do $50 a year. Go to lockedonfantasyfootball.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Texans lose to the Patriots, and they really should not have, right? I mean, if C.J Stroud could have done anything but give the ball away 1,000 times, they should have won this game. He had a 43 completion percentage, averaged under 5 yards per pass attempt, had just one touchdown to 4 interceptions in this divisional round loss at the Patriots. And that's after they won against the Steelers with him having 3 giveaways in that game. Like, they did not beat the Steelers because of C.J Stroud. They won despite him with that defense. So the Texans have some thinking to do with the quarterback position because their defense is so incredibly elite. What would you do if you were the Texans? Would you trade for Kyler Murray or Tua or sign Mac Jones, go Ricky route, or would you stick with C.J Stroud?
Yeah, the one thing about C.J Stroud, before we get into documenting this guy, I mean, he has won playoff games in each of his first 3 seasons. That's still hard to do. And look, I go back to Joe Flacco, and why I do this is because Flacco had that same kind of success early. He got in with the coach, And John Harbaugh and him got into the playoffs, got to their experience in early, right? Right away, working together. And then you've seen that with D'Amico Ryan. So eventually that breakthrough is going to happen. And I would give C.J. Stroud a little bit of a break. I mean, I think he actually overachieved this season. I think it would have been great if he didn't have the concussion issue and didn't miss time and open the door. And then we saw Davis Mills play of similar value in the offense. But their offensive line wasn't that great. I didn't have really high expectations at all for them because of that line. It had some continuity, which helped, but still was rather weak overall. And then you didn't really have those receivers all on the same page. I mean, Nico Collins, and once again, missed time at a critical time. You lost Dalton Schultz in that game. And you were breaking in some guys, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel. They were from college in the same program at Iowa State, trying to figure out what their roles were. You didn't have Tank Dell, which had given him a lot of upside. You had to move on from Stephon Diggs, who had some promise there before he tore his ACL and had to go to the Patriots. So there's just so many things that have been happening with this passing game over the course of the last 2 years that keep changing. I mean, when you're down to Christian Kirk and you're trusting him in a big game and there's not much else, like that's hard to get it done. He was under pressure. I think what hurts him is maybe he needs to use his legs a little bit more, kind of evolve his game to the point of I've seen C.J. Stroud like this basically since his rookie season, right? They've even changed coordinators, Bobby Slowick, and going to their offense they are now with Kaylee there. So I don't know what else you can do. I think he just has to execute better, protect the ball. Some of those things were just unforced errors. So I think this is a big year for C.J. Stroud. They're looking at the contract extension. It's funny, him and Bryce Young, they made the playoffs, looked okay, but you're still very shaky about them as 1-2 picks in their drafts. So I think there's a lot on the line for him, and I think that's why they were careful. But again, are you going to feel confident with Kyler Murray coming in there, Daniel Jones? Stroud has been in the system. He's got the chemistry here with Ryan. So again, he just has to be more precise and can't make those mistakes in fantasy or reality because he's so dependent on pocket passing. So if you add that running element, he's not a zero athlete. Get him moving a little bit. I think you'll see some better results from him. So it'll be interesting. I mean, the Texans definitely have to consider this before they make that mega investment in him going forward.
It will be interesting to see if they bring in competition at least, right? Like maybe that is just signing a Mac Jones so that if Stroud doesn't get any better next year, maybe you move on and you have a viable backup because I don't think Davis Mills is the guy either, right? Like I know a lot of people were calling for him to come in and maybe he would have not turned over the ball so much. Maybe he could have been a better game manager, but he's not the guy to go to for a full season. Now, what about these wide receivers? Tank Dell, maybe could he come back? You know, we've been waiting a long time since that devastating knee injury he had in 2024 to end the year. We knew that it was most likely he was going to miss this entire season. We'll see if he can come back and help out this offense and how well he can perform. But with Nico Collins, he's now gone 3 straight years as a top 10 fantasy wide receiver 10 in points per game in 2025, wide receiver 6 in 2024, wide receiver 7 in 2023. That's with the offense, slacking a bit, especially these last 2 years. So, I mean, Nico Collins has to be a guy that it feels pretty safe to draft. I wouldn't picture him going in the first round this year, but he feels like he'd be pretty safe pick in the second round in 2026 drafts.
Yeah, they just need to streamline again some of these weapons for sure. I mean, Nico Collins is the one. They have to make a decision. I think you just move on with Jalen Noel instead of Kirk. And then get Higgins as number 2. I think you just have to do that. If Tank Dell comes back, and fine. But I think these draft picks are made in mind of, okay, he may not come back. This injury was devastating. He's not there. Then, of course, Diggs with the ACL had to move on to New England. And they took a chance on him, worked out, but it's not like he was a dominant receiver for them. He's kind of effective for what the Patriots need. But, yeah, I think they just need some consistency. Like I said, a lot of guys shuffling in and out. I wouldn't try to force Xavier Hutchinson into something, right? Maybe you dump some of these depth guys that you had around for a little bit of experience that you don't need anymore. I mean, I think Higgins and Noel can fit in this offense pretty well. Hear what they want to do going forward. Look, Dalton Schultz has been productive, but now you worry about the injury. They also had the injury to Stover, the other tight end, who they've had some promise for in the past. So there's some things they definitely have to adjust here. And look, that's the thing about the Texans. Like, even going into their backfield, Woody Marks and Nick Chubb, like, I'm not totally sold this is going to be the backfield. Like, couple years ago, we had Dameon Pierce, then we had Joe Mixon. That seems to always be in flux here. So I'm not quite sure. You can see the personnel totally flip itself on its head in Houston as they try to look for answers in the playoffs.
Yeah, it really can't be Woody Marks and Nick Chubb. I mean, Woody Marks is a fine, like, change of pace guy, maybe. And Nick Chubb is just really past his prime. But Woody Marks led the backfield this year in carries and yards, but just 3.6 yards per carry, only 2 rushing touchdowns for him, only 3 for Nick Chubb. It's they got to find a better running game, especially if they're going to stick with Stroud. You got to help out the guy a bit. Now, maybe they go pay up for a guy like Travis Etienne or Javonte Williams. There's some, even a Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker. Like there's some free agents out there this offseason that they could go grab. We'll see if they decide to spend their money on that. Let's transition to a team that I have zero desire to talk about because they destroyed my heart this weekend. The 49ers just were not healthy enough. They got destroyed by the Seahawks. We'll talk about them and their fantasy future right after a quick break.
All right, this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is officially in now conference championship mode. We've got past the divisional playoffs every game day during the NFL playoffs, which we have 2 more of those through the big game. FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get into the action because right now every NFL playoff game day, so be prepared for it on Sunday, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your profit boost back first thing on game day and see what boost you want to apply. The boost lets you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback, player, coaching. The boost give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feels bigger. The boosts make your bets feel that way too. You make your picks and apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts when the playoffs are in full swing. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. It's only on FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. All right, Michelle, it is time to close the show, and we have to talk about the 49ers. I'm sorry, we got to do it. Yeah, it was tough. I mean, everyone wants to find some blame for the 49ers, but let's just be clear here. They totally overachieved this season based on all their defensive injuries. They shouldn't have beat the Eagles, but even getting to this point was pretty remarkable. One of the better coaching jobs by Kyle Shanahan. That said, the offense has left us with a lot of questions at the end. Of course, Christian McCaffrey doesn't get hurt. He gets banged up in this blowout. George Kittle goes down the week before with the big Achilles injury. Jennings seems to be upset. Brandon Aiyuk was nowhere near coming back to help this team. Ricky Pearsall in and out of the lineup with injuries. So what do we do here going forward with the 49ers? Are they going to have a very new look around Brock Purdy here in 2026?
They have a lot of work to do. I mean, their offensive line could use upgrades, of course. Trent Williams is getting older, too. He's their one great offensive lineman on the team. And besides that, they're all, up and down. So they have a lot of work to do, especially because George Kittle, I mean, he just tore his Achilles in the wild card round, right? We don't even know if he can come back at all next year or when he'll be ready. Or, I mean, he is on the other side. So will he ever be the same? So that's a big hole that they were not picturing to have this upcoming year. Brandon Aiyuk, yeah, they just paid him a couple years ago, but it seems like it's a much higher probability that he will not be with this team than will be with this team next year. Looks like they're going to try to trade him. And Ricky Pearsall just could not stay healthy whatsoever. He's had trouble doing that. I mean, last year wasn't necessarily his fault, right? He got shot and that was his fault. But I mean, throughout his 2 seasons, he's missed a lot of games. And this year his knee just was banged up and they didn't handle it correctly. I don't think they didn't get him the surgery he probably should have got when it first happened. We'll see if Pearsall can ever be a true wide receiver one. Showed some flashes this year, but still 0 touchdowns throughout the year. They have a lot to surround and fix here for the 49ers. And then CMC, running back 1 this year, right? Amazing. Anytime this dude can stay healthy, he's a fantasy god, right? But can we get another good year out of him? He's going to be, what is he going to be, 32 years old? Like, Wow, he's a lot younger than I thought. He's only 29. He'll be 30. Man, this man seems like he's been in the league
30's good
forever.
enough, old enough. Yeah.
I thought he was going to be much older than that. All right, he's going to be 30 years old, which is still very old, getting on the old end for a running back. But we've seen him now have so many seasons where he can't make it through. So can he do it 2 seasons in a row?
Yeah, the volume is just so high for this guy, and that's what you're seeing. I mean, that's why it's kind of an every other year thing, and really the 49ers are every other year thing when it comes to injuries, it seems like, as well, under Kyle Shanahan. So go figure. I mean, he's the one guy that stayed healthy almost to the end of they had to kind of pull him out when he got banged up in that game in Seattle. Yeah, it'll be an interesting offseason to see where he's at condition-wise. Looks like they're thinking about a successor to stash behind Trent Williams here in the draft. I mean, that's one of the directions they could go. They could also look at wide receiver again, maybe changing up that core completely. We'll see if Jennings is unhappy and wants to be out with Aiyuk. Then you're far removed from what you had just a couple of years ago, Deebo Samuel and Aiyuk. So they're going to maybe have to make some big changes there. I think guard is another position they look at as well to potentially upgrade. But the tackles, again, with Colton McKivitz and Williams, I think they need to think about maybe kicking McKivitz inside, finding a successor at right tackle that can flip over to left whenever Williams hangs it up. So there's a lot of things they need to do to kind of get the Kyle Shanahan weaponry aligned with what he wants to do and execute in his offense. But the baseline will be strong with the running game. They'll get that fixed, right, with whoever's in there, McCaffrey. I mean, Brian Robinson Jr. also showed us something that he's capable, too, of running well in this offense. So they do at least have the floor of the backfield to help Brock Purdy. But to really trust Purdy in fantasy, we got to see all this plays out because Kittle is a big loss, and we don't know how long he'll be out. When Kittle's not there, Brock Purdy does not have the same type of effectiveness. Trent Williams not in there if he's getting closer to the end. So there's a lot of questions with Brock Purdy, but right now he's not a guy that I would put on the radar to draft based on the state of the 49ers passing game.
Yeah, we could see a lot of changes with this offense. And I mean, the offense is so much better running the ball when Kittle is on the field too, because he's such a good blocker as well. So without him, that could also hurt. It's going to be an interesting offseason, interesting season next year for sure for this 49ers team. That will be it for today's episode. I want to thank you all for tuning in to Locked On Fantasy Football today. For our next episode, we're going to hit on all the latest coaching changes around the league. And make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Fantasy Football so you get all the latest episodes. And if you never miss an episode, then I don't know what you're waiting for. It's time for the Everydayer Club. It's built just for you. You get Locked On Fantasy Football ad-free, plus members only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonfantasyfootball.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to join the club. We'll talk to you later. Bye, y'all.